Yo, what's up designers? Welcome back to the channel. It's Jimmy. So we're going to be going ahead and talk about the things I wish I knew before I actually started industrial design school. So I've been an industrial designer for about 3 to 4 years now professionally, and then I graduated in 2017, where prior to that I was studying industrial design for 5 years at Cal State Long Beach. So I've been in the world of industrial design for a while now, and the things that I wish I knew before I actually started was I remember the very first week of Cal State Long Beach after committing myself to it, moving away from my hometown into this brand new school without knowing anybody, leaving my job, all this kind of stuff. I barely even knew what industrial design was, and if you were to ask me what industrial design was my first month at Cal State Long Beach, I probably would have given you a really broken answer without, a lot of confidence behind it. And so I kind of just wish I knew what industrial design was a little bit better, which was, just every day you look around, you see these things are around you, a light fixture, a furniture piece, tools in your kitchen, tools in your garage, a car, a heater, a camera that I'm talking to. Somebody has really put in the effort to think about the shape that it needs to be, the colors and the textures and the materials and how it works, and so, that's pretty much what a designer does, an industrial designer does, is they think about all these little things, how it's put together. I kind of just wish I knew that a little bit better going into Cal State Long Beach. So the next thing I wish I also knew was that a lot of it is going to be self-learned. When you're going to school, I would say you're about learning 10% of pretty much everything you're going to learn or want to learn. And so I think that going into Cal State Long Beach, you have to be, or even just industrial design in general, you should be naturally motivated and be, a lot of a self-learner when you want to implement kind of like these new ideas into your projects. Don't expect your teacher to know everything, so let's say if you wanted to incorporate a website or an app into your hardware product that you're designing for a project, you're going to need to really learn that software or how to write the code or figure out a way to make the website or create an app to go along with your project. Don't expect your professor to teach you all of that kind of stuff, So it's a lot of it has to do with self-learning, or even just learning a new 3D program or learning a brand new tool. Like if you want to incorporate CNC milling into your projects, you're going to really need to learn that yourself. Don't expect your teachers to learn that. The beauty of it all, though, is that you can take all these very cool kind of aspects and kind of disciplines of the world and bring it into industrial design, because industrial design is really flexible in that way. So that's really cool, but always expect to be a self-learner and to learn things on your own. Another thing that I wish I knew was portfolio creation. So when your teachers are giving you all these portfolio pieces or projects, you're taking one class, drawing class, and they're giving you drawing projects. You're taking a prototyping class, they're giving you prototyping projects. What I wish I knew is that one, you should always kind of cater your projects to essentially what you want to be once you graduate. So if you want to get into furniture, or if you want to be a car designer, if you want to design consumer electronics, make sure to always design products in that kind of genre, to where when eventually you're showing your portfolio to potential employers, it's going to be all in line with what they're looking for, and also what you like to design yourself. And so if you like to design a lot of car stuff yourself, design a steering wheel for one project, a tire, a rim, a side view mirrors, design something that has to do with the car, and eventually your portfolio, when you're ready to show an employer, you'll have all those projects already there, instead of, don't have a ton of furniture pieces if that's not even something you're interested in doing, okay? Also, of course, it's the presentation and the portfolio part. So I essentially went over a great example of a portfolio, went through every single project and every single page of Austin Powell's portfolio. So he was a past student of mine, and I went through super deep in depth into his portfolio. He's almost ready to graduate, so he spent a lot of time on this portfolio. I pretty much show you guys how to create your own, so definitely go and check out the links down below if you are interested in putting together your portfolio yourself and need an example to base off of. But creating these portfolios is a lot of work. When you're working on these projects in class, you might just think, oh, well, I'll put it all together and that'll be my portfolio, right? Well, 1 week they're asking for drawings, the next week they're asking for mock-ups and prototypes, and then by, after 2 months, you might be like, oh, I forgot to take photos of my mock-up, and my graphics are kind of different. I changed them in between, the first drawings and then the research papers, and so graphics and composition don't really add up, and they don't really look nice, and maybe they're all hand drawings, and you need to now scan them into a digital format. There's just a ton of work when you're putting together all these portfolios. And so what you really want to do is just think about all of that at the very beginning. Whatever you're going to submit to your professor, make sure to always make it like a PDF or something. If it needs to be printed out, just go ahead and print out that PDF to where you could always have a physical copy of it. Just going through the process of creating these portfolio pieces is a ton of work, guys. So what I always recommend is to make sure to take all those photos of the prototypes, of the models that you make, and eventually you're going to use these assets to put into your portfolio, because that's going to be an inevitable thing in your future if you're trying to look for a job. Now, industrial design is going to be very difficult. I don't want to scare anybody off, but I know a lot of people that apply for industrial design, essentially they think it's going to be an easy path. They don't need to be reading a ton of books or taking a ton of tests and all that kind of stuff. They think it's going to be an easy path, but it's not an easy path. If you think it's going to be easy, just think about it in the context of how the studio is set up. Your work is always going to be put up against your classmate's work. And if your classmate is, a crazy superstar student who is incredibly talented, which is inevitably going to happen, there's always going to be those few students in every single class that are going to be great. Your work is going to be up to next to theirs, and so you're going to be frustrated every time that your work isn't as good as them. You're going to be wondering why you're even in this career path, because that person is so much better. So you always want to make sure to try really hard and know that you're committed to all of this and wanting to always constantly improve, because your work is always going to be compared to other people's work, so it always has to stand and shine through. The difficult part of that too is projects can get really expensive too. So let's say your work is even better than another student's. Well, imagine if that other student had so much more budget in their project. So let's say you are trying to only spend like $300 on a project. This other student here is spending $300 just on his paint, the paint that he's going to paint his prototype, and he's going to print it out in a 1-to-1 scale. So it's going to be gigantic, and that's going to cost a couple more thousands of dollars. Your work is always being compared to these other students who maybe they're not even as talented as you. Maybe they don't even work as hard as you, but maybe their budget is way bigger. And so they're going to have these more extravagant, more larger, more grander projects. I know that one student of mine, he was a great student, super talented, always created awesome work, but he always showed up in a suit. He's always presenting in a full-on suit with a tie, and this is something that I remember feeling that I always had to compete with, is that even if my work is just as good as this guy, he's presenting his work in his suit, and so I'm thinking, what the heck? Do you need to know a lot of math and a lot of physics and a lot of engineering? What I have to say is that just as much as you're interested in the creative part, you also need to be just as much interested in the engineering part. They're pretty much what make up industrial design. It's this artistic beauty, kind of like aesthetic, elegant kind of theory kind of a world, but then you have to melt that into the engineering side. How is this going to be manufactured? Is it meeting the budget? What tools and how is it all going to be coming together, and what manufacturing processes and what color, material, finishes do you need to apply to this thing? And so I think that if you are able to marry those two together, you'll become a really great industrial designer. But I know students who just pick one side or the other depending on their strengths. So some students are just really great at, conceptualizing new shapes, new ideas, making things look really cool, creating awesome renderings. And so they could get into more of the entertainment design or the concept design, whereas another kind of more hands-on student, very engineering style, which I've met too, they get more into that. And so luckily industrial design is very flexible in that way, where you can kind of pick where you want to go. There's probably a ton more things that I wish I knew, but the very last thing I wish I knew is that it's very difficult to find an industrial design job. So to have a hardcore industrial design job where your title is industrial design and you're doing industrial design related tasks, that's a very difficult thing. I would say that the most successful way to really land that is to find a job in a consultancy once you graduate, because it's consultancy, it's all about industrial design. They're working on industrial design projects, they're marketing themselves as industrial design, so the people that will hire you, will hire you as an industrial designer to do that work. And so, that's pretty much the only way. But if you're trying to find a job at a company to do industrial design, that's really, really difficult, and so you might find a very similar path to that, maybe a researcher, maybe a CAD monkey, maybe someone that just creates prototypes and does hands-on 3D printing kind of stuff. That's perfectly fine. Go ahead and land those jobs, get that CAD monkey job, and work on those 3D models. Always bring your full set of skills to the table. So maybe at first they might only have you create 3D models, but when you could bring that rendering in, one day you could be like, hey, look, I render this thing. You can see the different colors and the finishes, and I added lighting to it and all these textures and materials, and maybe did an exploded view. Maybe they could use that for their billboards and their websites and their product packaging, you know? And so you always want to bring your skills to the table to where you can evolve the job that you have, and maybe eventually you can fight for that industrial design title or something like that. And so just always bring the skills that you have to the job, and eventually people will see the value in it, and you will mold that job into what you want it to be if it didn't start immediately off as a full-time industrial design job. And so that's pretty much it, guys. That's pretty much all I wanted to say. You know, share some of the things that I wish I knew going into the industrial design field, and I hope that really helped you out. If you did, definitely go ahead and hit that thumbs up button for me. It would really help me out. Also, leave a comment down below if there's anything else you'd like me to talk about. Also, hit the subscribe button if you haven't already. Let's go try to hit 100K, and I think that's about it, guys. Catch you in the next video. Peace.